Hey guys, it's Vampire Mike from Sega CD Universe, and I wanted to talk about the House Collection. This is a Blu-ray set put out by Arrow Video. This one is a lot cheaper than the limited special edition they put out a while ago. I picked this up used. There was one little scratch on one of the discs, but it works fine. From a gentleman on Facebook. It was $33 all in with shipping, everything. Normally this goes for around 50 new, 40-ish used, so it was a pretty good deal. And again, that other limited edition just is very expensive, so I never seemed to be able to track this down at a good price, so I was very glad about that. My friend's brother, who's also my friend, but my close friend's brother, he said he has very fond memories of watching the second film in this series, so I bought this set with the intention of sitting down and watching it with my friends, and we did watch the second movie a week or so ago. So if you don't know the House series, it revolves around a haunted house. The first movie, which came out in 1985, and they were all produced by Sean Cunningham, who had a hand in the Friday the 13th series. This movie came out in 1985, and it's about this ex-Vietnam vet who's a writer, and he's going to stop writing horror novels because he wants to write a Vietnam story, and everyone's sort of thrown off by that. And he moves into his eccentric aunt's house who passed away. And all this crazy stuff starts happening. Monsters, he starts seeing things, having crazy flashbacks to Vietnam. So it sounds very serious and horror-esque, and it is sort of, but it leans more heavily on a comedic side of horror. It is goofy with horror stuff mixed in, kind of lighthearted in ways. But his neighbor is Norm from Cheers, I think, the heavyset guy. He was also in VFW. And it's a fun little movie. You know, it's not going to blow anyone's socks off, but it's definitely a fun kind of horror film with comedic elements to it. I enjoy it. I give it like a 6 out of 10. It's a fun movie. Then came House the Second Story in 1987. This one is the one some people are very fond of. Again, my friend Matthew. This is way more comedic than that one, but still has some horror elements. It has to do with these two young men who move into the house. The house looks different, but they move into the house, and there's this, it's not an antique, I can't think of the word, but there's like special skull with gems in it they're trying to find, and this gunslinger who looks like the gunslinger from Dead by Daylight is trying to kill them for the skull. And then in the meantime, they resurrect one of the main characters' great-great-great-grandfathers from the Wild West, and he helps them, and he has like funny interactions with them because he's not used to all this new technology and new things from 87. So it sort of has that going for it, but it's way more comedic. There's some like cutesy kind of characters. Like there's this cute little worm thing they have at one point. It sounds like a dog and looks like a worm. And just funny little snippets of things happening. There's also an electrician or a plumber. There's a character that comes in to do some kind of service in the house, and it's the other guy from Cheers. Not Norm, but the thinner guy with the mustache. Or maybe that is Norm, I don't know. It's the thinner guy with the mustache from Cheers. So this is a good side story to the first film. Even though it's supposed to, I guess, be the first house was sold to these people, it's way more comedic than the first film. The first film has a goofiness to it. This has almost like a comedy aspect to it. The third film is called The Horror Show, and I think this was not initially supposed to be a house film. They just added the name to it to get some clout. This one came out in 1989, and it stars Brian James from Blade Runner, as well as Lance Henriksen from Pumpkinhead and Alien. So this one is admittedly my least favorite and most people's least favorite in the series. Again, it really doesn't have anything to do with the other films. The main point of the story is Lance Henriksen is, I think he's like a detective or a cop or something. And there's this serial killer. Yeah, he's a detective that apprehended the serial killer Brian James plays. The serial killer gets executed on death row by electricity, by the electric chair, and he comes back to life and now starts manifesting himself as different entities and demons and in pieces of whatever, and attacking the detective played by Lance Henriksen and his family. It's a decent film. It's way more serious than the other movies, but it also has nothing to do with the house or other stuff, so I don't really get the tie-in or why they even bothered. I mean, I understand for the clout, but they included it in this collection, I guess, because they had to. Um, that's a great cast. I like both of those actors, and it's an okay film. It's just so far removed from the other stuff. It almost kind of reminds me of a little bit more of a serious version of Shocker, which I also didn't like. Most people can't believe I didn't like that film, but again, it's about I think a serial killer who gets sentenced to death, and he comes back and whatever. So it was all right. It's not like a bad movie. It's just kind of middle of the road and just so far removed that it kind of lacks the fun of the other films. And then finally is House 4, The Repossession. So I had never seen 3 and 4. I had seen 1 and 2 prior because I watched them over the years after hearing about them. 4 was a sequel to 2. So, to 1. So, where 2 was sort of a side story, 1 and 4 directly tie into one another. The main character from the first film, with the Vietnam flashbacks, moves into the house again with his family. He's married again, he has a kid, because in the first film he's divorced. And I don't want to say too much and spoil the film, but again, the house starts having all this possession, and there's like demons and things, and the main target of the film is his family. And it was a pretty good sequel. I didn't like it as much as 1 and 2. It's a touch beneath that. A little more serious than comedic, so it has more of a tone of 1 than it does 2. 2, again, is much more goofy. But it's a fun film. I thought it was a good sequel, and it was cool to go back and see the main character from the first film come back into the house. So it has that charm to it. But again, it's not as good as 1 and 2. So overall, I would put 1 and 2 neck and neck for me. I really liked both of those. Again, probably 6 out of 10s. I thought House, maybe even 7 out of 10s. House 3, I would give like a 5, like it was. And this I would probably bump up to. So if the other ones were 7s, this is probably a 6. And yeah, they're fun films. And I think if you can pick up either they make a set with just 1 and 2. I think it's called The First Two Stories or something. That's probably all you need. But if you do want to see the first main character come back, then the fourth one is a good kind of companion piece to that and a good sequel. So yeah, I thought it was a fun little set. I hadn't really seen them all, as I had said. There's a ton of director's cuts and commentaries and interviews, and I mean, to go through all this is just astronomical. And there's Greg Nicotero doing makeup. There's Harry Manfredi composing music. Actor stunt coordinator Kane Hodder, who was also in, I think, the second movie briefly. There's just so much stuff in this set. It's a very vast set of movies with special features. And these are region free. So if you don't want to go out and spend a ton of money on the house set from America or the 2 stories and you want all 4 of them, this set is region free from Arrow, because I don't have a region free player, and I can guarantee you these all worked. So overall, they're not my favorite series. It's not my favorite set of films, but they're definitely fun little films that sort of escaped me in my youth, that I think would be good for like starter movies for maybe a kid, teenager, who likes horror movies, because they're nothing too crazy. There's nothing like overtly sexual or dirty about them, but they're fun. Let me know, guys, if you've seen the House set, not to be confused with the House movie from Japan. It's Vampire Mike from Sega CD Universe. Be good.